Welcome to the Everyday Tarot Podcast, your deep dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, your hallowed high priestess, tarot reader, and professional witch. And today I'm talking about tarot for ILUKA the Wings Tour. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every Monday morning to check out the latest episode. If you love the show, the best way to support it for free is by listening, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. If you want to access the most up-to-date info on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life, my newsletter is a one-stop shop. The link to join my newsletter is in the show notes. If you're interested or know someone that might be a good fit to be a guest on the podcast, you can fill out my form, also linked in the show notes, called Guest Inquiry. If you'd like to get a 30-minute 5-card tarot reading from me, you can go to my link now to book that. That will also be in the show notes. That's under the Hallowed High Priestess. And you can find the links for any of these offers, of course, in the show notes or on Patreon, in addition to the images of the cards I pull for each episode. All right, so today I am discussing tarot for ILUKA the Wings Tour. And you might be like, what are these words you are saying, Camille? So ILUKA is a musical artist. They came out with an album called The Wild, the Innocent, and the Raging, and it came out last November. They just wrapped up part 1 of her tour, and I got to see her in Seattle at the end of February. It was amazing. So I'm going to read a bit about her from her website. It's ILUKA is ILUKA. And you can go to her website, ilukamusic.com. So she is Australian-born and now American-based singer-songwriter known for her soulful vocals and her Dolly meets Stevie visual style. As fans have noted, there's the pop sensibility of Adele, the growl of Joplin, the lyrical alchemy of Stevie Nicks. It's impossible not to be drawn in. She grew up with a dad who was a songwriter and guitar maker and was taught the basics of songwriting. Early on in her years, she began recording songs at quite young, 7 years old, with her dad. And that's really the sort of education from her dad in musical history and passing down of emotion and storytelling gives her music its spark. And so, yeah, that is a little bit about her. I'm a big fan. Like I said, I got to see her. I had first learned about her, I think, on Instagram. She has like some reels that have gone viral that were have the visuals from her music videos for a couple of the different songs. Definitely Witch Girls, Wings, I think Cry Evil, and maybe Crucify Me. So these are some of the songs from her most recent album, The Wild, the Innocent, and the Raging. And like I said, she has wrapped up part 1 of her tour called the Wings Tour. According to her website, she will be announcing part 2 of the tour soon. So I just saw her fairly recently. And then I know she was in LA. That's where she's based out of now. So yeah, perhaps when this comes out, she'll already have announced part 2 of the tour. I recommend listening to her music and, definitely go see her if you can, if she's showing up nearby. But yeah, really cool. So I had this idea because I love the album. I got to see her kind of in concert recently, that she has these songs that have like this evocative imagery to it. And I was like, I want to do like tarot cards associated with her songs. So I didn't do every song on the album because I feel like that would be like a 3-hour episode. But I pulled some of my favorite songs, some of the most like visually evocative ones, some of the ones you might have heard. Again, if you're on witchy Instagram at all, feminine rage Instagram side. So I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the cards I pulled. So I pulled cards from the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. which is by Lorraine Anderson, Julia Diaz, and illustrated by Giada Rose. The imagery on the back of the cards is like red. We have a moon. We have the creepy kind of like haunting disembodied hands. I mean, actually, if you look at, I'm going to try to find it for myself so I can reference it. But if you look at her tour, like poster image, it's this red background where she had her hair is like out and like almost like tentacle arms. um and I'm like, it gives similar imagery, I think, to this deck. And it's a very witchy deck, obviously, and it's like a Samhain Oracle deck. So I was like, I think I have some great cards in here to pull to match for her songs. So of course, you can listen to the album as I talk about these. That might be helpful. I'm going to be referencing the lyrics, so I have the lyrics pulled up on another screen over here. But I'm just going to kind of go through and try not to make it too long, but talk about, I guess, 7 different cards I pulled for 7 of her songs on the Wild, the Innocent, and the Raging album. Most recent album that came out. All right. So the first one, first song on the album, I'm gonna just trying to get all my tabs right so I can reference it. Yeah. So the first song on the album is called Witch Girls, and it's basically like shout out to all the witch girls who were like called weirdos, who were peculiar as a child, who all of those things, and maybe have now come into their witchiness and embraced it. She has like a fun YouTube video for this, or music video for this song. So I'll link her website and you can see some of the videos there, or you can look her up on wherever you listen to your music. Some of the music videos I know are on Spotify. All of them are on YouTube, on her YouTube channel as well. So maybe I'll link that as well. But yeah, let me pull up the lyrics for the Witch Girls, but it's very fun. Yeah, the chorus is like, she's a wild, wild witch girl. She's a moon-kissed little cowgirl. She's a shoot your shot and never miss girl. And she'll have you thinking like, oh, she's coming for you. She's a wild, wild witch girl. And so for this one, I went through and actually pulled visually, and like some of them I remember the names of cards that related to songs. So for this one, I pulled the Ritual card because it felt very witchy. The imagery of it, again, is very similar to her album cover, for the tour cover, actually. I'll try to link it so you can see it. But it's this like red background, and her hair is like, she has, I assume, extensions and looking like tentacles, like she has many arms, but it's all her hair. And then she's kind of like juggling, yeah, it looks like apples, I think. So I actually have the apples card later for this one. So this is the Ritual card. I'll read what it says here. It says, can you feel them? The wild creatures linked by the very blood you will spill into your craft. A ritual of dedication to self and those who gazes hold fire, but whose whispers carry you softly through the unknown. So I felt like she kicks off the album with kind of this, like, this is who this album is for, right? It's for anyone that was called like weird as a child. You know, you were sort of witchy, you were peculiar, were into, you know, being out in wildflower meadows, food rings and zodiacs. What else does she say? Oh, she's got this great line that says, all the good girls go to heaven, but the witch girls never die because she's cosmic, supersonic with that sparkle in her eye. And she has like in the music video, she walks up to this house that's very like, I don't know if it is the Practical Magic house or she picked a house that looks kind of similar, perhaps in the Bay Area, where I think the house is. And so it's just very fun. And she's doing all these witchy things in the background with her friends in the video. They're like lighting candles, and they're out there. They have their all their like high priestess objects. They sit at a big table and have like candles all around, and it's very fun. So for that one, I pulled the ritual card. I was going to read just a little bit more about the card. If you don't know this deck, I've been pulling from it a lot. But it says ritual is the very foundation of a witch's practice. It's the doorway to worlds unseen and a rite of passage. It's the deliberate honoring of the wise ones who walked before us, the spiritual ones who watch over us. It's also a dedication to self, a place where you can find yourself in your practice and harness the power within. So ritual is the dedication to your craft. Here. And so I think that part's really important too, because I think, right, her craft is this album that she's created. And again, she kind of kicks off the album by saying, like, this is who this music is for. It's important to take time to honor your magic and the magic of those you call upon. By doing so, you are making a choice. If you have pulled Ritual, the card, it's because you're being drawn to honor your magic in a more profound way. And maybe I'll post a reel on Instagram, but I took some videos when I saw her where she's speaking before some of the songs, and she does talk about that a couple of these songs she was concerned or just hesitant about putting out such like strong witchy feminine rage messages into the music, but also that is kind of what really started to propel her into like larger fame. Again, like I said, I saw her because her music was like going viral on Instagram, and a lot of the visuals from it in kind of early winter, fall of last year, 2025, when the album came out. I think it came out in November 2025. And so I just thought that was, that she talked a lot about like her values and kind of what music she wanted to make, and that she kind of took a chance with this music. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to pan out, but that really it's been very fun to like see that people connect with that message. So that makes sense to me for the ritual card. Okay. The next song I'm going to talk about is Wings. So this is what the tour is named after. And this is one that's definitely like, you can find the song and her video on Instagram a lot, and probably also TikTok and other places, but short form videos of like some of her visuals from this song. And for this one, because it talks about wings, I pulled the owl card here. And it says, "Behold, sight, O ancient ones, for there is magic in the darkest of places if one dares to open their eyes." And this song is very much about being socialized, being brought up as a woman, and all of that entails, and how this kind of like no winning. She talks about people telling her that like as a kid that like, you're never going to be able to do the things you want to do. You can't be a witch in your cowgirl boots. They told me how to dress and how to feel. They held me down, but I learned how to heal. So it is this very like reclaiming song. And I think like this imagery of the card shows like the woman standing next to the owl. And it's kind of this like, there's a lot that came from this like dark upbringing, or just like the messaging that a lot of girls get about who they are, who they should be, who you're going to be when you grow up, the possibilities. She talks about Mary Magdalene in her song. It says, "Some called her a whore, some called her a nun. Was she the baddest bitch in Bethlehem? We'll never know, because her story's written by men." Where again, there's just this sort of like sadness about like what could have been, but also how she has learned, like, not to, I guess, like, that messaging isn't true. She talks about, I live to see another day. I live to write my story. I live to find my glory. And I won't let them speak no words for me. Um, in that way. So it's a sort of like reclamation, again, message, and um, a lot of, again, the imagery for her tour, the Wings Tour, comes from this song. Um, read a bit more about the owl in the book here to see if there are any other connections that I want to share. And I'm just sort of going off vibes for these cards. Again, like, they're oracle cards, so they're from this deck. Says there's no witch or Samhain without the mention of owls. Owls are majestic creatures, often known as old souls, that have fantastic sight and the ability to turn their heads 270 degrees. The energy is one of vast knowledge and observation. They sit in silence, carefully watching their surroundings for their prey. They do not need to search for what they seek endlessly, as they know that what they seek will soon come to them. The owl has called because you are one of the great keepers of wisdom, even if you don't know it yet. You have knowledge and experience that other people need, and you have something to share with the world, a voice that must be heard and healing that must be shared. This is a natural path for you, and as the saying goes, when the teacher is ready, the student will appear. And I really feel like this is what she shares, like, in her album, or in the song in particular, is kind of like, this is what was told to me about what I could be again in life, or like what was expected of me. And now I've learned that they were just trying to kind of like hold me back, or they were stuck in their own ways about of what a girl or woman should be. And now I'm finding my own voice and finding kind of like, yeah, my own freedom within this. We're letting the owl fly free here. Okay, let's move on to the next song. And again, these are in order of the album, but I am skipping some of the songs because I'm trying to keep this episode to a reasonable length. The next song I'm going to talk about is Cry Evil. And for this one, I paired it with the apples card from this deck. It says, to taste, one must swallow it whole, and beneath the satin flame hides drowning waters. And it sort of depicts a woman like in a cloak with a big basket of apples. I think it's very evocative of like the witch in Snow White, Maleficent, where she poisons the apple. There's also a part in this song where she talks about Eve took a bite of the fruit from the tree, brought death to the world with a sin so deep, so lit. They lit these fires, they burned us down. What men will do when they fear our power. So I think that that's sort of like a perfect one here, right? We see the sort of poison apple, the Christian idea of fall of humanity when Eve sampled the fruit, which is like free will, I believe. That there is this idea of like women are forever scorned because of this story from the Bible. Yeah, so it starts this card talking about, we all know the story of Snow White taking the apple from her stepmother who masquerades as a sweet old crone. It's a wise old tale that existed long before Disney ever made it into a movie, and a warning that things are not always as they seem. Sometimes our greatest enemy is hiding behind the mask of a savior. Death is infused into something meant to give us life, and someone pretending to be our friend is luring us into a trap. And again, the song is about like, called Cry Evil, where again it's kind of like women are seen as evil when they stand up for themselves or have power, or she also talks in the song about like hell hath no fury like a woman you scorned. where there is this like, yeah, societal fear of what happens when a woman gets mad, right? It's like society cries evil, saying, oh, she's evil, right? She's the witch in the woods. She's the, and I'm going to talk about another card next, the Banshee, for the next song. Like she is, right, this monster, this lurking, right? She's masquerading as something where there is this like malintent. She's not the same girl. She is evil reborn. That's another lyric from the song. Let's see. It says, when an apple appears in your spread, it is a warning to pause before making any decisions about someone or a situation, right? Don't just like cry evil because that's what it looks like on the surface. You do not have all the facts yet, and there could be danger for you now. Betrayal and deception are likely, so be vigilant. You must tread carefully until everything comes to light. All right, let's move on to the next song, Woman Gone Mad. And this is the one that I pulled the Banshee card for because I feel like, right, Banshees are, again, this monster sort of that gets, I guess, attributed to, I guess, like a woman turning into a monster. And yeah, and again, the song talks about like laws against women, sort of thing that have gone on recently politically in the US the last decade. There's a verse that says they'll shake their heads and say, well, she's gone insane, but honey, look around at everything that's at stake. My, ain't it sad? Ain't it sad? Just a woman gone mad. They build us up to watch us fall, enough to watch us lose it all. Sorry, I'm looking at the lyrics on my other screen here. Yeah, and I just like when I saw this Banshee card, which I don't think I've ever pulled before. I'll put it up on the screen here. That Yeah, I actually was like, what is a banshee? So here it says the keywords associated with it are bad omens and wrath. Heed my warning, dear child, for what I hold is far from unsung lullabies. Swallow a nail and you can expect bleeding from within. So it says a banshee is a fairy woman from Irish folklore who heralds the death of a family member by wailing, shrieking, or keening. Some believe banshees are the spirits of young women who have been brutally murdered. These spirits become banshees so that they can warn other women when faced with a similar threat. And I feel like that's like kind of what the song is about. Woman Gone Mad is like almost this idea of like, no matter what you do or when you fight back or when you actually stand up for things or when you see what's happening out in the world, you're just called crazy, right? You're just called a woman gone mad. You are, right? Like even the idea of banshee, it's like a banshee is someone that is grieving their family member or like young women who've been brutally murdered, where it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like that's not a monster. That is just like that's what people do. It says it's more common to hear that a banshee is a woman who's intensely grieving the passing of a loved one and that she become eternally lost in sadness. A banshee's cry is a bad omen and one should take caution when she appears. In a reading, a banshee's cry can also mean death, but the death is not physical. It's symbolic. You are facing an ending. However, this will not be easy, and you will still mourn the loss. The ending is long overdue, and the powers that be can no longer wait for you to let go. The choice to end your situation may no longer be your choice. You've rejected change, but you can't avoid it. You're holding on to something that no longer benefits you, and know that it is time to let it go. And so there is this sort of within the song too that they build us up to watch us fall, enough to watch us lose it all. here comes a voice they can't ignore. One woman gone mad, but there's millions more. And talking about that, right? The more people, right, are crying, that are saying things are going wrong, wailing, that are, right, identifying things that are happening as problematic, hopefully the more like we can push society to change. And I think there is this level of, right, like this card is about endings, right? That there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of death, there's a lot of terrible things happening, and we can grieve that. We get to grieve that, and that doesn't make us a monster. That makes us, again, sort of like this, it's like a warning for the future, sort of like, this is everything that's going on. It's not going to stop immediately, but again, how can we perhaps like change things or like make enough disruption in society so that people realize that grieving doesn't make you into a monster or something that we should avoid, but that is like the norm. And when we avoid that norm, right, we're cutting ourselves off from our humanity and from the things we care about, and not kind of allowing it to propel us to make change. All right, let's move into the next song, which is Crucify Me. And I pulled the Rebirth card because that felt very appropriate. I'm going to pull up the lyrics for that one too. I'll put it up here, but it says, so it shows like a big fire and women around the fire. It says, there's death in all that awakens, for it isn't blissful nor painless. It's a mighty rising, O flame resurrected. So this song, Crucify Me, talks about, again, what like little girls are taught. And there's sort of this underlying, I would say, like tone about like sexuality for women, and women having to be accommodating for the violence in the world, the being made to have people looking or staring at their bodies from a young age. It starts out by saying, let me tell you a story about all us girls, taught pain is our burden to carry the world. Innocence stripped at our coming of age, I stitched up my silence with ribbons and rage. Um, Yeah. And then the chorus is, you love to crucify me. And then she goes on to say, you wanted a martyr, a virgin, a saint. I bled in the spotlight. You fed on my shame. Why are you telling me what I shouldn't say when you're going to crucify me anyway? Where it's kind of like, yeah, why would I follow the rules of what, like, again, a girl or woman is told to be in society when no matter what I do, you're going to burn me at the stake, right? Like that's sort of the idea here, and why I picked this Rebirth card, because it is this kind of like awakening or like a resurrection, or right, again, she uses the imagery of the crucifying, right, of like, you're going to nail me to the stake, you're going to execute me anyway, right, whether that is by burning or by nailing to a cross. All of these are means of execution, and that no matter what you do, like even when you try to follow all the rules or be a good girl or woman or kind of do what you're told, and they're never happy, or society still kind of tries to keep you in line. And so, right, and in the same way where we have this like rebirth, that like there is this level of like, okay, well, if I can do no right, like I guess I'm just gonna do what works for me, because why would I try to, again, follow within the small confines of what you're allowed to be as a woman in society if it's going to get criticized anyway? If you're going to, again, burn me at the stake, you're going to crucify me. She also talks about like Medusa and, again, like sort of the monster motif of like oh, again, like when a woman fights back or when a woman like actually seeks some level of justice for some of the things that have occurred, she gets turned into like this monster. Again, whether that is like Medusa, we have the Banshee card from the prior song, right? Even the witch itself, right? I'm talking about kind of witches in all of this, but like the idea of a witch, right? The name of a witch is like this, I think to me, like a word that's been reclaimed by some people, but again, like historically, that was an insult thrown at people to say like, you are of the devil, you are pure evil, you are doing bad things, right? You are this monster. And that allows us to, or that allows society to sort of demonize and just say like, oh, okay, yeah, like it doesn't matter. You're not a person, right? You become this like monster, this entity that is separate from humanity. And therefore it makes it easier to execute you, to try to put you in the confines of the idea of what you should be. All right. Let's see if there's anything else on the Rebirth card that I want to share. It says it represents an awakening after a difficult period. We all must face our storms, but know the storm will pass. It's a process of unfolding yourself after the storm. It's when your spirit has had a chance to take a deep breath and stretch. It's about rediscovery. All that trouble you have burned away, and now you can face a new life that is waiting to bless you with new adventures and lessons, right? And this is like that level of rebirth where it's like, okay, we have to like burn it all down to like start anew. You need to use the ashes. You need to use the sort of like what happened as the means to fertilize the ground for new beginnings. It says, when you pull the rebirth card, you're on the cusp of transformation. You've weathered the storm. You're being given another chance at accomplishing your heart's desires. A blank canvas. What will you create with it? It says, if you have felt withdrawn, hidden, or shut off, now is the time to emerge back into the world. Your healing is done, and you must begin the process of starting anew. Don't hide your light. Don't be afraid to let yourself be seen. Your lessons have given you experience that can help you contribute something positive and beautiful to the collective consciousness. Trust that all is safe and well. All right, 2 more songs to go. The song Haunted One, I pulled a haunted card, which, you know, is probably the most obvious card pairing that I have done here. So there's like a woman sitting in a chair, and again, there's sort of these disembodied hands coming at her. She's wearing all black. She sort of looks like she's grieving, perhaps, or she's sort of looks like she's crying. Her eyes are downcast. And on the card, it says, the breaking of the floor beneath your naked feet, the creaking of the walls as the cold kisses flesh. You're never really alone when in the company of hauntings within bone. And in the song Haunted One by ILUKA, she talks about that, like, I'm trying to think what in particular. It's sort of this level of like, it is like a bit of like a rebirth. Like she says, release me from the chains below me. I can't be the only haunted one. Release me from the lost and the lonely. I can't be the only haunted one. And she has lots of these metaphors of like being, you pulled me kicking down below. If I work myself to the bone, would you give me peace? Let me back home. Yeah, and I'm like, there's something about this that like makes me think of like, yeah, being haunted by like a prior relationship or just kind of like things that happened, again, whether that's a relationship or just like sort of life in general, and feeling really pulled down by that. Again, like she talks about feeling like held underwater, or she talks about the hounds of hell can't break my sleep. I've been down that old dark road. I see you standing in the cold, windows barred to keep us from the love and hate. I don't know which way to go, but I feel it in my bones. Yeah, I mean, it almost sounds like a prior, like, abusive relationship in some way, because there's just, like, a lot of physical metaphor of, like, being weighed down, fight him off with my own hands, um, and again, like, I don't totally know, obviously, what, like, the song is intended to be about. She talked about some of the songs, and some I feel like are the lyrics themselves speak about what is going on. But let's look at the haunted card in the deck and see kind of what aligns here. It says the keywords are atonement and company. The definition of a poltergeist is an unknown spirit that causes disturbances such as loud noise or moving furniture. Originally, poltergeists were thought to be demons who played tricks, focusing their attention on one specific person. Many now believe poltergeist to be a manifestation of an individual's troubled psyche, as disturbances generally focus on one person. The person is usually in some kind of pain or trauma, either for things done to them or things they've done to others. The poltergeist becomes a physical representation of the pain that has been locked away and left to fester. Eventually, the pain becomes too much for the person to hold, and a poltergeist is born, bringing with it a terrifying display of what was hidden. It says if you pull this card, there's something you must atone for. You've locked something away, choosing to ignore it rather than own up to your mistake. That can be something you have done to someone else, but also something you feel you've done to yourself. Perhaps a choice you'd like to forget, or even a trauma that you've never dealt with. Whatever your situation, know that your hauntings will continue until you're ready to face the monster your pain has created. This is especially true if you pull another card called Greet the Darkness. Yeah, and I feel like this is like what she's talking about, right? It's like, okay, yes, maybe like I can see the situation now for what it was. When I was in it, it just felt like very dark and lonely and like I'm haunted. And now it's almost like now that she's out of it, she's looking around being like, I can't be the only one that like went through this or has been going through this or like that was hurt by this relationship or this thing that happened. Like I'm looking for right release. Like that's a big part of the like chorus, like release me from what happened, right? Which again, like this card is all about like owning up to things that you did, your own part, and then like kind of trying to move on or process the trauma of what happened, not again to say, not to push it down or that sort of thing, but to like deal with it. And then once you deal with it, to be able to kind of like move on. And like this card says that like the hauntings will continue until you're ready to like face what happened. And try to like process it. All right. And then finally, last song, which right now is my current favorite. I have to go to the longer list. Yeah, it's called Hard to Love Me, and I love the song. It's got a different vibe to it. She's speaking about like a long distance relationship and sort of having gone through a lot of other not so maybe like healthy relationships in the past. Like she talks about you when I pulled out all my skeletons, you weren't afraid of them at all. And in the beginning of the song, she sort of tells the person like it almost sounds like, yeah, okay, like we're on a first date, and she tells him like, yeah, like I think later she says, yeah, I packed my things, flew to America, and now at every night at 10 you call. So they're in different time zones probably. Right. She's kind of across the world, and she's kind of like, I'm gonna pursue my dreams. I'm out chasing glory. I'm still writing my story. I'm sorry for your heart that it fell for mine. I'm always in motion, can't bottle the ocean. It's so hard to love me, but I love that you try. Um, where she's sort of, I guess in some way, like very grateful that someone is sort of willing to do a long distance relationship with her, that she found someone that um, she feels committed to, or that they understand that like she can't be um, tied down to one place. Like she has this in another song, again, like the Wings song, talking about like the bird imagery of like flying out of the cage and like not wanting to be like pinned, held down by something, and saying like, I still have faults. Like, I'm definitely not perfect. Right. And I'm very grateful that, like, you can see all of that and you still, like, to me, is kind of the language that she uses. Like, it's a very sweet song. And actually, when I saw her in person, I think this is one of the middle or later songs that she'd played. It's at the end of the album. Um, and, and she sort of, like, what's the right word? Like, she got emotional about it because, again, I think like she's on tour traveling all over the world, and of course that means that, right, sometimes you're leaving people behind to chase your own dreams. And I guess I think it's very sweet. It's like a sort of like romantic song, but it's also this very like she's perhaps looking back on other relationships or other things that were just like not the right fit, and this feels like, oh, like you actually understand me and you're not trying to like hold me back. You want the best for me. And if the best for me right now is to like live in LA so that I can create music and like pursue my dream and go on tour and all these things, that like you understand that that's what I need to do. Um, and you're supportive of that, even when it's hard. Um, yeah, she talks about put the Pacific between us. I only wanted the whole damn world. I'm always crying on airplanes, always on to the next goodbye. Um, and that again, she's always sort of like pursuing these dreams, right? Probably pursuing her music career, moving to LA to do that and to go on tour and all these things. And that, right, obviously that's still hard on a relationship. And again, like I don't even know if she's like in this relationship now or if this is more of like a metaphorical right, thinking about the things you left behind. But as someone who has like lived in other countries and like studied abroad, like I was often the one leaving. Especially when I was like in my teens and early 20s. I've done a lot of crying on airplanes, I would say. And been in multiple like long distance, long-term relationships. And it's like a different kind of thing. And I think this song really like captures what she's talking about. Um, and also that desire to not be like that, to be in a relationship with someone like they're supportive of you chasing your dreams, even when that means they might literally be like chasing them across the world away from you, right? That almost like it's not personal. It's just that like this is how I am and this is like what I want to do. And it's not that I don't love you any less. It's just that like I have to do these things. And again, as someone who has career aspirations, loves to still like travel and does solo travel and travels to conferences or to give talks or to do my own like niche hobbies or go to fandom conventions or go to see a concert. Even when I saw her, go see a concert in Seattle for one night and drive 4 hours total to just like see a 2 hour concert because it speaks to me and her artistry. And I love going to concerts of music that I listen to all the time. I think it's such a fun experience, and like every time it feels like a once in a lifetime opportunity, or just that like like no one concert's ever going to be the same again. Um, and yeah, so that's how I feel about this song. You can tell I like it. And I pulled for this one the Wolf card. I there's like women sitting next to each other, and there's a wolf like howling at the moon, and we kind of see that they're like in a home with a wood burning fireplace and kettles and a Luna moth on the wall, and we see the moon in the background, and it says, "Devour the ferocious calling within the howling of your spirit. Run wildly into the freedom of your knowing." And I think like that's a lot about what she's talking about in this card, is like following her instincts, not being kind of like held back by other people's ideas or like things about what should be. And this card is all about like instinct and intuition, that there are gifts from the powers that be to help us discover happiness, support, and well-being. Intuition is our inner knowing that connects us to the intelligence of the spirit realm and to the intelligence of earth. Many of us may have muted our animal natures and have become too reliant on what we can see and have forgotten to tap into the intelligence that's already available to us. So when you pull this card, the wolf is calling to remind you that you know your way home. You may feel lost or confused about something in your life. You may not know which direction to travel or what is safe to pick up along the way. Wolf allows your instinct to take over. You receive this guidance through the urges you feel. It's like a push and pull right into the center of your being. It says, take a few moments to feel these urges when faced with a decision. You can start with something small, like something to buy, like what thing to buy or which blog to read. This will help you build your trust and your instincts. Eventually, you'll be able to tap into this energy at will and use it for every decision you make in life. And I think like that's, to me, what she's talking about in this song, right? Is that like from the outside, this might not look like the dreamiest job or relationship, or like it might seem very hard, right? I might seem very hard to love. But if you're willing, right, like kind of come into the inside and like see what it's actually like, and don't try to hold me back because, right, like I need to spread my own wings. And right, and also like you have to allow me to come back, right? Like, again, she's literally talking about like going on airplanes and then coming back home, or that they only see each other, right? When like they're visiting each other, they don't live together seemingly. And that there is this level of like, yeah, we're always like saying goodbye. We're always, right? I'm always, if she's on tour doing other things, right? Like creating music with the people, like you are always leaving, right? Perhaps like the things you are comfortable with, your hometown, the people you know, the culture you know and love, and you're going out, and that there's like a lot of risk and like challenge to that. Um, but that like when someone like that chooses to be with you, or like choose, right, if you can honor that we all have to have like our own freedom, when whatever that looks like for us, that they, again, like that's supporting someone through that, even when it's hard for you sometimes, is like the ultimate, to me, like health of a relationship. Um, is that you should be excited for your partner to follow their dreams, even when sometimes it's hard for you. Um, and again, like I love that, especially along with the themes of a lot of the other songs that she talks about, right? It's like so much of what was told to her as a girl, or what you can and can't be, or what you can and can't do, and all the restrictions and all the political realm that we live in right now, and kind of the like, right, the crucify me, the witch burning, the like feeling haunted or feeling like a mad monster because of the things you care about, and then looking around in the world and being like, I guess, am I the only one, right, that in this song, she sort of says, right, nope, like this is how it is, and like take it or leave it, right? Like this is what I need. And if you're willing to kind of like get on board, great, right? She literally starts the song by saying, like, when I met you, the first thing I said is that I would be leaving. And in the blue light, you leaned back in your chair and you ordered another. And then she talks about kind of like talking about all her baggage and her skeletons and that you weren't afraid of it. Right, that someone like leaned in to say, right? She's like, hey, I'm going to be literally leaving. And they're like, okay, tell me more, right? Instead of being like, all right, I don't want to be with you because you're just going to leave. Um, and I've definitely had times in the past in a relationship where leaving like that, or like, I remember feeling like, oh, they don't want me to leave, or like they're not supportive in that way, or they're scared or anxious, or like they're thinking about what this experience is like for them, which we all do, but that like feeling that like, oh, you don't actually want me to like go and travel to do this thing I love, to go see people I love or care about, if it kind of like negatively impacts you, that it was like, nope, this is not it. And so I very much relate to that too, of like, okay, like I'm gonna be chasing my dreams. I'm gonna be doing crazy stuff. I'm gonna be like having a podcast about tarot and podcasting every day and like trying to go to conferences and like talk about tarot and do all these different things. And like if you're not on board with that, like bye. I definitely still love that level of adventure and travel, and like to still solo travel. I find it very it helps allow me to follow my intuition, actually. Like when I think about this card, the wolf card, right? It's very like, yeah, whatever you're howling at the moon is, whatever that equivalent is, where you sort of like reach out and you want the thing to come back, to get energy back from something. Like when you perform on tour, when you are at a conference or a convention and you speak and then people really like appreciate that. Um, Having that reciprocal like energy is important to me. I mean, it's part of why I love going to concerts, is that like it feels like for that hour, for that moment in time, right? You're all in the same room together, like experiencing similar things and connecting, which is very cool. All right. Well, we're almost at an hour here, so I'll wrap this up. So yeah, these were all cards from the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle by Lorraine Anderson, Juliet Diaz, and illustrated by Giada Rose. I am going to still go ahead and pull a card from a different deck to see if there's anything else we need to learn today, or okay, well, I got one. I went to shuffle and a card already fell out. So I pulled the Eight of Swords, and this is from the Sacerdote Tarot deck by Stacia Burrington. Here's the card here. The Eight of Swords is about victimization, powerlessness, and discomfort. It's when we're feeling trapped, restricted, or fenced in, being overwhelmed, lacking direction, or confusion, feeling victimized and powerless. This card shows a person bound and surrounded by swords. Their eyes are closed and they look uncomfortable. He feels weak and believes in his powerlessness. Swords, symbolizing intellect, show that the man's discomfort is self-imposed. Recognize that the restrictions are of your creation and therefore under your control. He can use his mental swords, intellect, to cut his binds. So, right, this is saying look around and kind of see where you're feeling like hemmed in, and then look at, right, like how are you contributing to that, and then also, right, what's going to be needed to kind of like break free of that. And again, swords as an air element is often about anxiety, overthinking, over planning, kind of like being in too much in the mental realm, thinking too much. So there's something here, right, of like, okay, too much of that. Let's like get into our body. Let's connect with other things. Let's connect with what's important to us. All right. So expect weekly episodes from the podcast published on Monday mornings. I'll have guest episodes about once a month. I'm recording one right after this with a lovely guest I'm excited about. Every episode is recorded on video. You can check those out on Spotify and YouTube, and hopefully soon Apple Podcasts. I'm trying to figure that out. They're launching video as well. And otherwise, you can find the audio anywhere you get your podcasts. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, I have a form in the show notes to be a guest on the podcast to fill out. Links for the decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on Patreon if you want to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. You can tune in every Monday morning to check out the latest episode. And you can always email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com with your thoughts, questions, and more. And like I said at the top of the episode, if you want to get a 30-minute 5-card tarot reading from me, the link to book readings is available now, also in the show notes. All right. See you soon. Bye-bye.